World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Uranology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon. Hope all is well. We are, in the middle of Women's History Month, and in the spirit of that, I'm sure that you will enjoy our show today. I love the second Tuesday in the month because I'm able to share the show with a co-host. And one of the things that I have been able to understand is that if you're in the room and everyone is smarter than, and you're smarter than everyone else in the room, you're in trouble. And that's the same in producing shows and all of these types of things. And Scharlene De La Cruz is a person that makes life easier because she's doing millions of things at Columbia University as the head of the CU Grow program, as well as a couple of other different projects that she's always working on. But if you are in business and have an interest in doing business with Columbia University, people like Scharlene De La Cruz and Tanya Pope are people that you should try to know. And that was one of the purpose of having a show like this many years ago. Actually, Laverna Fountain was the first person. She was the vice president at Columbia, and we started doing this. So it's been a long history, and Scharlene has taken the mantle and is a great person to work with. I would like to introduce actually my co-host, Ms. Scharlene De La Cruz. How are you doing, Scharlene?
Hi, Tony. Happy Women's Month to me, but I'm very happy. You.
happy Women's Month. It's just like Black History and all of those months, it's always good to stand out, but it's always 365, you know. But nevertheless, Charlene, I am always grateful to have you as a co-host because I know that you're one of the hardest working women in Columbia University.
I may be one of them. I don't think I'm the hardest one, but I may be one of
Well,
them.
I did say one of them because Tanya, and a couple of others may be listening. I don't want them to beat me up,
Yeah,
but you're definitely one of them.
no, but
And
it's a true pleasure to be here with you on the second Tuesday of the month. I definitely look forward to it, and I know that I've been off the rails a little bit because we've been doing other programming, so it had conflicted in the prior months, but I'm happy to be here today.
well, I miss you. And one of the things I asked Charlene, since it is Women's History Month, was to uh, look for guests that uh, amplifies the whole idea of the strength and leadership that women have that is not always seen, especially in areas that are old boy areas, whether it's in engineering or many of those types of fields. And there's always an opportunity to project women like that, but it doesn't always happen. But I'm glad to be able to be with you and your help to be able to do that. So I know you have guests. Could you introduce your
Yeah,
guest?
absolutely. So I definitely want to introduce Susan Miles. She is my counterpart in the medical Irving Center. So she is really a true partner that I work with here at Columbia University. She has such an astounding life. I feel like I'm always in awe whenever I talk to her because I learned something new about Susan. So she is definitely one of the women that I wanted to recognize for Women's History Month because I feel like she is a pioneer and she has a beautiful story to tell. So, welcome, Susan.
Oh, welcome, Charlene. Such an honor. Such an honor. I'm blessed that you would even ask me. I'm just
Oh,
going about doing life and holding up the banner.
yes.
And you don't look to talk about it, but thank you so much for asking me to join you today. And thank
Yes.
you, Tony, as always.
And it's always a pleasure to see this lady. It's been years. I was shocked when you said that you had a son that was 44 at this point.
Yes.
I, I mean, you look like you a student at Columbia University, a
Yeah.
freshman or something.
She's drinking from the fountain of youth, but I definitely
Always, always, always a student. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I was born here, up here at the medical center.
which is interesting. Tell us a little bit about and Charlene, you probably have better questions than I do, but since I did not know her in this capacity, I'm curious. So tell us about your journey that brought you to where you are now.
Oh, to Columbia.
Yeah.
That's
yes.
all Tanya E. Pope in a,
Ah,
in a nutshell. We've known each other for some time, but then she reached out to me and said, Susan, you know the community. And we have this initiative, and Columbia University project with Manhattanville has some deliverables. And some of those deliverables are going to include making sure that we have a MWBE policy. So she asked me to be a consultant, and I went around through the community to different fairs, churches, construction sites to garner information, to share information about an event that we had at Riverbank State Park. We wanted to just bring in information, people who were interested, people who were in the unions, people who wanted to be in unions, the trade people, whatever the trades were, to start garnering a relationship and opportunity to seek firms that would be able to comply with the policies that Columbia University, as being a banner or a university, to make sure that they offer local women and minority businesses the opportunity to get at the table, to get part of those constructions, as you said, Tony, the good old boys club. So that was in 2016, and then that was in 2012. And the opportunity to come to the medical center came about in 2016. So I've been here at the medical center since 2016.
That's amazing. That is an amazing. So I was not aware of that. So it's like it was like almost like a full circle, Susan.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I was raising grandchildren that I didn't expect to raise, and I was consulting at different nonprofit organizations that gave me the opportunity to still work with Blue Nile Rites of Passage, coach Little League, do my church work, and help in the community and be at the table. So it was time. The kids were a little older, and initially my title is procurement analyst. What that means is they came up with it, but it means procurement to buy something, to purchase and analyze the data as an accountant, to analyze whether or not the documents and the data is correct. Because I know the construction people just want to get an invoice and move. They just
Right.
want to get the contract and move. But Columbia University is very, very stringent upon making sure the documents are in order. And especially when you're working with minority and women and local businesses, we want to make sure that everybody has the credibility, the documents, so we can have an even keel thing. We don't want any audit findings or anything. So technically, that's my role. So if a bid comes in and a list comes in, we have to make sure that if it's over $100,000, that there is a minority, a local firm on the bid list. So it'll come into our department, and primarily I look at it and say, yes, this is an approved vendor with the university, or no, we can send them a bid list only. And then the bid goes out. We send the bid out, comes back. We have to work with the leveling. We have to work with them to make sure they put their documents in, the M1 schedules, everything through the invoices. And at the medical center, um, as Tanya's team has a group and they meet in the morning to go over all of this stuff, I primarily, along with my supervisor, Marianne Eagle Guida, we are the ones that look at all of the contracts at the medical center and make sure that they're in accordance with GAAP and make sure they're in accordance with the policy. That's primarily what the procurement analyst does. But then I have this amazing, amazing opportunity to make sure that we're at the table. This is a community. Look at the zip codes. We're part of the empowerment zone. Look at the zip codes where the medical center is. And for many years, the medical center didn't do the MWL because they said, we don't have life science suppliers. We don't have lab MWL's firms with life science or lab work or MRI work. But now with CU Grow, we're starting to develop those firms
Yeah.
and making sure they're at the table. And it's a great opportunity to do so. Um, um, so that's to answer that.
Oh, that's now your training prior to Columbia. What were you? What's your training to allow for a Tanya Polk to seek you out? How does she know
How are you
your scope of work?
fortunate?
Well, that's a long story, but for one thing, I worked at Abyssinian Development Corporation. I was the controller there, and I was the director of special events and communications. So I put on events. So the Harlem Renaissance Day of Commitment, the street fair, all that, working with firms, making sure that they came to the table. I went to Ralph Lauren's office to get money, but I had to take somebody who didn't quite look like me, didn't have the same hairstyle as me, to make sure that they looked at us, that we were credible, and that we would do that. We were able to get Bloomberg to give money, and other firms to build what used to be a $100,000 to $200,000 day to over $1 million in for the day, and we turned it into a whole day event. So we had a breakfast event, then we had tours of Harlem, we had the street fair, and at the tours of Harlem. They got out at Abyssinian Church and they could see the street fair and go on tours there. And then at night, we would have restaurants from our community come on at Taste of Harlem by candlelight. So we used the same space at City College for the breakfast that we used for we had it for the day. So we garnered an opportunity for restaurants to come on. So now I have a relationship with restaurants and in our community. um that was some of the things that she saw, I guess, to make that a viable thing and come on. And I worked with agencies with shelters in the Bronx that had to put in proposals. And I worked with my husband's organization as an accountant and helping him fundraise for funding.
It's interesting. You brought back um, a lot of memories when I was the head of urban and governmental affairs at Columbia University. All of that stuff used to come out of my office with Anthony Achille and Karen Witherspoon.
I remember Anthony.
Anthony was a freshman when he came into my office, and he's a meteorologist. He should be on the news, and he's never left doing what he's doing. A lot of people don't know that. Now I always say Anthony, but if you want to do something at City College, you go to Anthony and Chill. It is funny. You guys, it's a full circle type of a conversation here, but
Mhm.
I guess they say birds of a feather flock together. But
Now, so
those are interesting days, and I wasn't aware that you were doing a lot of that stuff. It, these things are great, having these types of conversations because we see other parts of people that we've known for a long period of time and didn't really, and we're involved in these activities and events, but didn't always
Yeah.
put these pieces together.
So last week we had Women's Week, a women's celebration, and on Tuesday night, the minister Weaver from Riverside, she said that the blessing is in the blessing of others. Your blessing is garnered through that, not for your whole credibility and your name. The blessing is in the blessing. And she talked about there's a fire and there's a light. The fire moves, the fire is volatile, but just be the light. Just be the light that shines wherever you go. Just be steady and continue to do the work. And so that's the how I think about it. And also from my mother, who growing up, she graduated from NYU in 43 and she got her MSW at Columbia in 1948 and
Wow.
was working on her PhD when I was born. So I thought that was normal. I thought that was everyday stuff. So, I don't take that for granted. I appreciate all of those things.
that's
And
so
it's an
beautiful.
interesting Harlem story. Plus, with all of the stuff that you do, you're involved in the Harlem Go Jew, the Harlem Little League, and all of those other things that take up a lot of time. But
Yep.
you're true to the course, Suzanne.
Thank you.
I do love, Susan, how you mentioned how your mom, like, so early on, invested in her education, and you thought that was normal. How did that feel normal to you? And did it feel normal to your friends or whatnot? Because I'm curious of what that looks like, especially for me, because I'm the first one in my family to go to college and go have an education, even though they provided the paths for me in terms of probably putting me in private school so that I wouldn't have to be zoned to my local public school, right? So they cared about education, but I'm just curious, like, how did that develop for you?
Well, I think deep roots create tall trees. And I'm not talking about strong trees because we're all strong and weak,
Yeah.
but tall trees because we want to lean forward into doing that. And so I appreciate the ancestry of our work and our mission throughout the diaspora. So my grandmother had to scrub floors, but she was always a businesswoman. And by her being a businesswoman, made sure she knew that her son was going to go to the army and he was going to get a job, but she wanted my mother to be educated. So she's one of those church ladies that did all the things in her church group with
Salem.
Salem, and my mother was Church of the Master, and Church of the Master, the vanguard of Crossroads Africa and Harlem School of the Arts. So
Mhm.
for her, it seemed normal. And then moving from the Bronx to Teaneck, New Jersey, we grew up in an environment where 95% of everybody lived in a house and 95% of people had a mother and father in the house. And it didn't matter whether you pumped gas, you worked for the city, you had a doctorate, you were a lawyer. We just saw that as everybody had what they were supposed to have. And the Mafakwas were the Jamaican family, and the Burgers, the Jewish family, were across the street, and the Kellys were over here, and the Baha'i Temple was the parking lot across the street. So that's how I grew up. We thought that was normal. My aunts and uncles were teachers, um, and we always thought that was how things were. My father was a photographer, and we just thought that was normal until we went out in the world and we saw that it was a different atmosphere. So that's how it looked for us, and we never had a plateau thinking that anybody was better than anyone else. It was just that just you just treat people right and do the right thing. So that's how it looked for us. um and I'm sad. Have to say that I'm saddened that it seems as though we missed the mark in a generation of sharing that story, or making sure we hold on tight enough to make sure they get that before they get loose.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something that we really need to continue to work on. And my granddaughter told me recently, Mama, you tell me so much about our African heritage and I'm African this, and you don't matter whether you're in a ball gown or a little league outfit or African outfit and you're doing Blue Nile. Doesn't matter, but I need to know more about the American history side of that. So we've been spending February talking about that so that she's garnered and girded up with that information. So it really just looks like it looks normal. And I just try to pass that on. Charlene and I didn't know some things until recently about one another, and we shared that. And I was trying to share some things with her about her daughter and her school. We didn't know any of that. We were just doing the work, just doing
Right.
the work. So that's how it looks. Very much like the same plate of peas and rice in my culture as it is in your culture. It just
Right.
maybe have a different little flavor, but it's the same thing. It's the
Yeah,
same thing.
it is true.
Well, it's interesting because what you say is something that I believe in and work at, write about it a lot. The diaspora is very strong, but technically, from a scientific point of view, we're all African.
Absolutely, yes.
No matter what we look like. You could be far in Europe with blonde hair and blue eyes, but if you trace your genetic background, you'll
Sure.
find yourself in Africa. So we're all brothers under the sun. Sometimes that's missed for many different reasons. But what I'm amazed at is that through all of the things that Africans have gone through, we've constantly have produced people like a Suzanne, like a Scharlene De La Cruz. There, there's something undeniably special about a people who can withstand many of the things that we were able to withstand and still overcome the post traumatic stress and all of the things that go with it to take an opportunity, first of all, to appreciate love.
Yes.
I think all of what you've said and all of the things that happen is that if you have been able to experience the true essence of love and someone caring for you, it allows for you to take advantage of the frequency of creativity and helping others to do the same. As you know, Suzanne, the Leon Wallace was the person who helped me understand a lot of stuff in the Harlem Go Jew for over the years, and that whether was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And you've seen that. You've seen young people grow up in that environment and are able to excel. And had they not had that environment, they would not have. But nevertheless, Charlene, tell us a little bit about the things that allow for you and Suzanne to to work on together in order to fulfill the overall goal of making sure that people have access.
No, absolutely. I mean, me and Suzanne, it's really a partnership, to be very honest. Just because she works at the medical center and I work on the Morningside campus, that doesn't mean that we all just do whatever we want in each campuses. We literally come together and try to create unity and cohesiveness in everything that we do together because we want it to be unified in every aspect of the world. Suzanne is also an amazing partner when I need support with outreach with the CU Grow program. She has been a tremendous supporter of the CU Grow program. She is one of the amazing experts that sits in at those presentations that we do for our CU Grow participants when they're giving their pitch presentations. And it's really a tremendous work that she does, right? Because it's not an easy feat to be able to advocate to make sure that minority and women in local businesses are added onto bid lists. Sometimes project managers like a specific firm, but it's our job to advocate for them and say, listen, they've done this work, give them a chance. And
Yeah.
that's the part that it is difficult a lot of the times because we do have to put kind of like our warrior, chest to kind of like make sure that they are able to be put on that bid list. And then just having the opportunity here with the CU Grow program to orient them in terms of what is the proper way to engage with large stakeholders. How does your presentation deck has to be looked? How does your proposal have to look? These are all different areas where each of us are kind of like working side by side to make sure that the minority and women in local businesses are prepared to engage with those large stakeholders. And that's really what encompasses our job. So it may sound a little tedious when we're talking about adding them onto the bid list, when we're looking at invoices. But I promise you that if we didn't do that, they wouldn't be able to be there. So it may sound tedious and whatnot, but I definitely take honor in looking at that invoice, making sure that invoice is up to date, making sure that bid list is up to date because, oh, I caught something. This needs to be added. And by us catching these things, that's how we support those minority and women owned businesses.
Can I just add
Yes.
that amazingly that it's so important to now, instead of going to the project manager who manages the project, now they're coming to me before they submit their invoice and saying, Susan, can you look this over before I submit it to make sure it's okay? And I'm like, all right, let's just do this. Let's make it happen. And I just want to tell you something exciting that's happening at the medical center. Our former president, Bollinger, put forth a mandate that he wanted to make sure that Columbia University reduces its carbon footprint by 2050. And one of the initiatives is a new research building in Washington Heights. So the medical center is building a new building. It's going to be 100% electric research center in Washington Heights, in Manhattan. And it's $180 million project with $120 million construction spend. And so at the helm, I have myself and other finance people, my boss primarily, Marianne. We sit at every D scope, and Charlene and Tanya were on the helping us put together the bid list, sitting together to make sure before the bid list went out that we had people for every type of trade possible, for the main trades and for the sub trades. And now we're descoping and we're about to do final bids to make sure that they comply. And every descope meeting, I'm on there telling them what they have to do. And it's been a tremendous thing that we're going to try to get 35% of minority spend, women. I would really like to see women and local businesses. I mean, we have to push that to be a part of $120 million project. That's an amazing feat. I know they've done that in Manhattanville, but we have never done that. And 100% electric building. So I think this is a great opportunity, and we're looking forward to this new initiative.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. And one of the things that I have a great deal of gratitude for is people don't really see people like you. Um, when you see a university and you see these things happening, um, it does not always resonate that somebody had to be there in order to be at the table, in order to make sure. And really, uh, how this show actually started was, uh, or I say the partnership that we have with Columbia University, based on being with the chamber for many years, when the MWBE program really started to become real. When David Patterson, when he was the governor, he did research. He had uh, a study come out to show what we already knew about the lack of business that MWBEs were receiving, based on the amount of voting power that they had in the state. And when Andrew Cuomo came on, his one of his major pushes was to make sure that MWBE became real. And at that time, we were at Albany, Pat Stevens and Laverna Fountain and a number of others, and the thought pattern is that we need to let people know about this. So whatever media we have, whether it's TV, radio, whatever, that we talk to our people, because nobody else is going to talk to them but us. And that's how this partnership came about. And as I had mentioned, Laverna Fountain was the first person who was on the show as my partner, and then Tanya Pope, who's amazing, was on, and now Scharlene De La Cruz. And and to understand, Suzanne, what you guys are doing, it all makes sense as to how it developed and what Columbia has done, to at least, I mean, there's yings and yangs and everything, but at least there are you guys that hold up that banner to allow for to have some sort of an opportunity, which it's amazing. I commend. And the fact of the matter, uh, as we talk about leadership, women in leadership capacities, it's you guys, have that sensitivity because you're women. You're in that position to want to go through that what you guys have to go through in order to get this thing done. So um, all things happen for a reason, and
Yes.
you guys, whatever you've done, allow for you to be the perfect people to be in the position that you're in now, because what we're talking about is generational wealth. I
Yeah.
mean, this stuff is going to be going on uh,
Many,
after
many more
our
generations.
grandchildren become old, our great grandchildren become old. And
Yes.
some of the companies that you're opening up the door for and creating these opportunities for will be around for a long period of time. And that in and of itself is historic. I'm just happy that Soul City has provided opportunities to document a lot of the stuff. We're in the second Harlem Renaissance, and and I'm happy to be able to and proud, have a lot of gratitude to start recording these types of conversations because people should know about the Suzanne, you know, I mean, you guys are the ones that are, carrying that banner, and it's important that people understand what you do and how you do it, and for those who are looking, because the other thing is that there's hope. I hope someone out there, who may feel that they're qualified now might say, well, wow, maybe I can, maybe I can contact them. Maybe, my business might be able to have a shot because you know how it goes.
Yep,
If you
we
walk
do.
in, you don't know this, you don't feel that you have a chance to Columbia to get into this, an electric building. What can I do to have a part of that?
Yeah, and it's not just the businesses, it's the workforce. We have a policy that any contract over $1 million needs to supply us with a list of 40% boots on the ground MWO workforce. So that means you have to hire folks that are can learn the trade, who can do the trade, who are minority women and local. So that's an important initiative. You may not have a business, but say 5 years working in that field, that person may decide to start their own business, and grow from that. So it's an important step, not just for the businesses, it's an economic enhancement for the community as a whole, for people to have good jobs and
Yeah.
insurance and go back and take that back to their households and their families and say, we can do this. We can do this. It's an important, our goal at Columbia University is 5% higher than the city's goal at 30% right now. So, we're happy to be part of that.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you recall, Tony, when we invited one of the P2A graduates and he was talking about what it was for him to be on the field and how that impacted his life. And it's like, just to what Susan is saying, it's a huge impact for them because at one point they didn't think it was possible, but because exposing them to all these different opportunities, it is possible. And they now can bring that word to their friends and to their other colleagues and family members so that they can be part of this expansion as well.
Well, it's important, and it's important for people to know that there are people like yourselves that are there who and I know well, I know you because you've been okay with some of the stuff that we did with the Harlem Gold Jewels for his discipline, and I know Charlene, and she has that beautiful smile, but they tell me that, oh boy, you better have your stuff together. don't come halfway.
All backs are straight.
Absolutely.
So again, in the greater scheme of things, you guys were being molded and you were created to take on this heavy responsibility. And I'm so happy to be able to know that I know you guys because it gives me the opportunity not only to see you in even a greater shine, as they say, people shine because, they're your friends. But then once you figure out all of the other things they're doing, you realize, wow, I'm really fortunate to have this long-term relationship based on the experiences that I've received based on knowing them. So, and that's the way I feel. This conversation is great because it opened my eyes with a lot of stuff, but it allowed for me to understand again the importance of being able to have an ability to write your own narrative,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to allow for people to know that you guys are around. It's important.
Yes, it is.
I hope the university realizes that as much as they should.
Well, It's a different animal. I have to say, it's a different animal up here, and Charlene knows it. Um, for Black History Month, I couldn't find a program to go to. I had to come downtown
Yes.
and participate in the CUFO, the main campus, because we didn't have one uptown. Uh, it will change. I know that we have a woman president, and it will change. But there's a difference. There's the social science. There's the political aspect. We don't have the political type of protests and all of that at the medical center because we have the main thing. We have the main campus, which is surrounded by MYP. And we're a hospital setting. So the people who walk up and down the street, a lot of times they're patients looking for care. And so we're looking to help them in that capacity. And that we have the research center. And we have the schools of medicine, the schools of dental, public health. Love public health. I volunteer for that graduation every year because they're speaking to what we need. Not that others don't, but it's a different climate up here, and we don't have the same gathering spaces. So we really have to push and make sure
Yeah.
that we're seen.
And to kind of keep people aware, because Columbia, City College, all of these institutions, for some, are just mystery places. I grew up right across the street from City College, and it was like, what's that? I would ask my mom, what's that? And she said, that's a college. And when I was growing up, and I would look out the window, I said, well, do people like us go to college? Because I didn't see any black people going. And it was always like a fortress. And it's good to be able to, at this point, have the opportunity to allow for people to understand that it's here, but that there is some responsibility that needs to be had in order to make sure that if you're in my house, you need to share. You could be in my house, but don't take all my resources and then not let me take part of it. And that's an important thing.
And it's a blessing to be part of New York City because New York City is the vanguard of so many things. And as you know, if you get on the subway, you're going to see some of everything and some of everybody because that's who we are. And if you travel the country, it's a little different. So it's about making sure you keep that in the environment and then you can spread out. But if you make sure that we have it here, we can take it other places and strengthening what we have.
Well, again, I am just always happy to talk to you, Shirley. We had another guest. Did she come
We
on?
did have another guest, but I think they might be joining soon. But I definitely want to thank Susan for being here, joining us, and just letting me intake on her beautiful history of her life, just a trajectory that her amazing grandmothers, because it's two that have done such
It's an
great work.
interesting story. I mean, one of the things that I will always remember about this conversation is uh, your whole idea of with your grandmother, with your mother, and the things that you were doing and their accomplishments, and you thought it was normal. I think that is an interesting testament that sometimes when we talk about Harlem, growing up in Harlem, and doing things is not always something that we hear. But the most important thing, and I've known you for many years, as I say before, it's not who you are, what you do, it's what's in your heart.
That's for sure.
And if you have love, where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right. And hope. Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive. And that's what you guys do all of the time. I'm glad to have the opportunity for people to see you, what you're doing.
I'm so honored. I'm so blessed, and I appreciate it all.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate you.
Well, you take care, my dear, and we have to communicate because I want to try to do something to promote the first day in April. maybe, or even that week or something with the Little League.
Yes, yes, yes. So
Well,
Charlene will share, and
absolutely. I'll connect you guys via email so that you guys have your contact information.
As,
okay. Are
okay,
y'all checking me, signing me out, or am I signing myself out?
I think you just you leave the studio, but I definitely thank you for being here and joining us, Susan.
Thank
and
you.
and you can stay and listen if you want. I don't know who our next guest is, but we're not kicking you out.
Oh, okay. I'll just listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can always learn.
So I did share the link again to our guest, so let's hopefully we'll get there. But I do want to report, Tony, that we were able to launch our first track of our CU Grow program this past February. So we were able to onboard 20 businesses for 2024. However, I will say that we are doing another track, and that's happening on April 10th. And that other track is going to have 21 businesses, and we are going to be launching track two in April 10th. So that's one of the reasons why I've been very, very busy, because we're now going to be working with about 41 businesses for 2024. So yeah.
And each one of those businesses have to have special care in order to make sure that they are in compliance to the things that are necessary for them to grow.
Yes. So each of those businesses, Tony, they will have to be businesses within the built environment, have to comply with the revenue requirement that we have. Also, they need to explain and let us know that they have a strategic challenge. There is a challenge that they want to work on. And that's something that they really have to explicitly state us what that is. Because unfortunately, I have engaged with businesses where they just want to work with Columbia. And I want you to work with Columbia, but the goal right now for the CU Go program is to plan a strategy for your business growth. And if
Mm-hmm.
you can explicitly tell me what is your challenge, what is your plan, then wouldn't necessarily consider you at this very moment until you create that plan. I could definitely recommend you to other business, other agencies that can support you with that. But it is going to be a very interesting feat this year for 2024 because we will be working with a lot of businesses. Um,
Now, the majority of the businesses are they in the engineering industry, or are
so
they?
it's really a mix, to be very honest. It's a mix of businesses. So for track one, we have a few GCs, we have a few painters, we actually have a few data kind of like security solutions firm.
Mhm.
I have an interesting firm that does a very interesting like VisiLock. So they have kind of like they created a special handle that when you lock the door on the other side, it has like a kind of like a turntable that says like vacant and not vacant. So they created this new innovative handlebar. I have firms that are architects, and I also have a few engineers. I have a glass vendor, which I'm very excited because I couldn't find a good glass vendor, so I'm very excited to have a glass
When
vendor.
you say glass vendor, what do you mean?
So that is really the a vendor that creates glass for windows, any type of glass structure needed. That firm creates that
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
installs it. So that's something very important.
So windows and doors and all of
Yes,
that stuff. That could be a very profitable, I mean, business,
it's needed. So it is very profitable.
especially with some of the structures now that have these ceiling to floor.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've noticed, like the Jerome L. Green Center, it's completely glass.
Right.
The entire structure is glass, so you could see right through the building. So we need furniture like this because we have
That
structures.
would be an interesting contract to be able to. Well, there are things that when we first started talking about MWBEs, the the concepts were if you could supply shoestrings to the police department or boots, or toilet paper or there's so many things that agencies and universities and institutions need that have never really trickled down to those who, in many cases, populate those entities, people of color, women, minorities, or what have you. So to be able to have a focus on leveling the playing field is a good concept. It's something that is very new. I mean, as I said before, uh, a few years ago, that's when, with all of the history of New York City, New York State, it's only been a few years that, and it's still, I mean, because when it first started, MWBEs, they had this thing with men with skirts, where white guys would have their wives be the front, and
Yeah, well, with the CU Growth program, we definitely don't have that. But really, the goal is engaging with businesses, and me, by engaging with these businesses, I'm able to educate myself. What is the services? What is the work that they actually do? And there's been so many engagements that I've had in the past where, like, I don't see us buying this yet, or I don't see us needing this. And guess what I need? I need that service that I didn't think that we needed. And it really just it happens all the time. And I always get surprised by it because, like, I'm so empowered by what they're selling to us. And I'm thinking maybe I have the limited belief that, well, we don't need this right now. But by them being in our roster, by them continuing to engage with us, I know the person that needs what you have. And I think that's the powerful connection within the program. And there's been a few of them where they have like this very niche product that at that very moment I didn't necessarily need, or I didn't have the opportunity for them. And the opportunity is almost around the corner. And it's something that it just happens very, very uniquely. And I always find it very interesting.
there, the hotel that's going to be that's in construction. I know it's basically for internal Columbia use. That's
So
on.
it's not a hotel. It is a residential building for the business school, and it's
Mhm.
going to be for faculty and students. So it's on 125th Street and Broadway. And
Right,
the McDonald's is going to come back, and it's going to be in the lobby of that building.
right. Okay. What's the time frame for that?
That is, I mean, that has been going very fast. I get impressed when I walk by that area.
Yeah.
But I can't necessarily confirm what's the time frame yet. Probably another year or so,
Mhm.
for that to be completed. But yeah, it's been going up very fast.
And there's so much stuff that's going to happen on the pier area. One of our colleagues at the Harlem Tourism Board, Michael Preston, is going to introduce the Harlem Rocket. That's like a 60-seater uh, boat, similar to the beast that they have downtown, where you
Okay.
ride up and you tour and then you speed back.
Yes.
That will be at 125th Street Pier. So
I
that's going
mean,
to.
that's going to be a great attraction because now you have the students that are now at the Columbia Business School, and then the day is beautiful today. So if that's just almost like a tease of what's coming for the summer, and then your friend Tony, who does the food events also around that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Marco.
Marco,
Yeah,
he that's gonna
they
be
start in April. Yeah. I don't know whether how they're going to fit all of the people. I mean, as it is now, it's if you don't get there early, by the time you,
that is true. And it's really funny because I went last year and I saw him and I said hello to them because I feel like he didn't remember that we had interviewed him, but it was very lively. There was a lot of vendors, and I'm very impressed with the work that he's done.
and of course, we're going on the 50th anniversary of Harlem Week, so that's going to be
Oh,
a
that's gonna
very.
be amazing. So yeah, summer is definitely going to be a great summer because there's a lot happening and there's more to come.
Well, Charlene De La Cruz, I appreciate you. I'm glad I missed you. I'm glad that you were able to get your work in place so that you can give us a little bit of your time.
No, I mean, I definitely am very happy and honored that you still call me and that you still want me to be here with you. So this is definitely a very honorable day for me to be here with you as always.
Well, thank you, and I also like to thank Suzanne Miles for uh,
Yes.
bringing back some memories and reconnecting and allowing for me to see another side of her and some of the work that you both are doing at Columbia. Uh, it's fitting, the women at Columbia that's making sure certain things happen. Well, they're women, though I should say the people who are at Columbia that's making sure that things happen for individuals, businesses to take advantage of this expansion that will take place way longer than we can think
Way
of.
longer than me, Tony. Way longer than me. But I am definitely very indebted to Suzanne because she is just an amazing person to be with, to work with. I've never felt like such a great partnership with such a colleague, even like a work colleague that you can really share work and personal life with. I think it's a blessing in disguise. So I'm very honored to have her.
As they say, all things happen for a reason.
They sure.
Thank you, my dear. I appreciate your time. And this the second Tuesdays of the month are always enjoyable for me because I have you as a partner. So I appreciate you and keep up the good work, as they say.
Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you, Matt, for producing us.
And that brings us to the end of this segment of Urbanology, The Art of War. William Anthony Rogers, for those who may be new to the show, my name, which is, William Anthony Rogers. A lot of people say, well, where is Tony when they read or see articles that I write? And it's William A. Rogers. They wonder who that is. So, uh, for those who may not be aware, and I am a student of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. So that's where all of this comes from, Urbanology, The Art of War. And we hope to be back. I'd like to thank Matt McCoy and Jasmine and all of the Soul City team for giving us the opportunity to bring information to you that you might not be aware of. So hopefully, God willing, we'll see you next week. Take care.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Urbanology, yeah, the art.